Good afternoon. We're back with another episode of the Lord of the Rings LCG Progression Series, and today we're going to be talking about lore and quest guide for Flight from Moria, which is the third quest of the Khazad-dûm expansion, and the most interesting one, and one of the most interesting that we've seen so far in the game's life. So, let's take a look. You have discovered the fate of the Dwarven colony and seek to leave Moria, but exiting may not be as simple as entering. As you leave the 7th level, the air grows thick and drums begin to roll from the deeps. A man-shaped shadow, yet greater, masses at the end of the hall and begins to head straight for you. So if you remember, in the first quest, we were sent into the east gate of Moria, which is located here. It's east of Lorien. This is where the Fellowship exited after the fight with the Balrog in the Fellowship of the Ring. We're sent east and then up from the gate to the 7th level of Moria, where the Hall of Records was located in order to discover the fate of Balin and his colony of dwarves who came from Erebor to colonize Moria and hopefully reclaim it, as Moria, the dwarves regretted losing it. In the 7th level, we discovered the fate of Balin and his colony in the Hall of Records, and now the task is to escape from Moria. You have discovered the fate of the Dwarven colony and seek to leave, but exiting may not be as simple as entering. As the presence draws near, doubt and fear surround you like a vast shadow. You must find daylight. You must escape from the Black Pit. So this quest is unique in that there are a lot of stage 2s. And we're looking for one in particular. So with the stage 2s, all of them are the same on the front, and we're going to take a look at the back side of all of them in order to determine what the strategy should be to win. So first let's talk about the setup. Prepare the quest deck, add the Nameless Sphere to the staging area, remove all copies of a foe beyond from the encounter deck, then shuffle one back in per player. So we start with one of this card per player in the encounter deck. That is not likely to come up in any game. In true solo, you go through fewer cards in the encounter deck than in multiplayer. So it's a 1 in 46 chance. And if it does come up, you just deal damage to a hero equal to the Nameless Sphere's attack, which can't be cancelled. That can be not a big deal at all if it comes out early. It could be quite a big deal late. But in any case, that mechanic is unique, but not that big a deal. The Nameless Sphere, starting and staging, it's going to gain power over the course of the game. So this deck's trick, Flight from Moria, this encounter deck's trick is that it tries to trick you at times into putting cards in the victory display that you don't necessarily want there, because the cards in the victory display buff the Nameless Sphere and make it harder to continue. The Nameless Sphere is not going to be something we ever have to fight. Its presence simply adds threat, and at times it will be able to have an effect on us, such as a foe beyond, dealing its attack as damage to a hero. So once the setup is done, in the side 1B, we reveal one encounter card per player and add it to the staging area, and then add Presence in the Dark to victory display, which just means that we start with 2 threat, 2 attack, and 2 shields on the Nameless Sphere. Then you move on, and you should have shuffled these 2 cards, stage 2 cards, so that they are in random order. And you select the top one. And you don't flip to side 2 until the beginning of the staging step. So that timing is important, because it means you have to commit characters to the quest not knowing what is going to be on the other side of the quest. And if you should flip to the other side and, for example, discover that it only takes 1 progress to clear, you may clear this quest without really wanting to, because only 2 of these cards are involved in actually winning the game, and the others are just decoys. And if you should complete one of the decoys and add it to the staging area, it's going to buff the Nameless Sphere. So ideally, we would like to know what's on the other side of the quest card before committing characters to the quest, so that we don't accidentally add cards to the victory display that we don't want to add. But we don't get to know. That's the gimmick of this quest. You have to commit characters before knowing what's on the other side. Then you reveal the other side, and if it's a wrong turn, then you're out of luck, and that's thematic, because in the Fellowship of the Ring, the party was not certain of their way through Moria, even though Gandalf had been there before and he was guiding them. And Aragorn had been there before as well, but quite a long time before the Fellowship of the Ring. And so they got lost. Not completely lost, but they took wrong turns. They were unsure of their path at times. They ended up on a level quite a ways above the gate, even though they'd been intending perhaps to take a straighter path to it. And that is what this quest is simulating. Wrong turns which cost you something. And you can't really do anything about because it's random. When you complete a quest like this, or if you don't complete it, which is hopefully what will happen if it's not one of the ones you want to win, at the end of the combat phase, you can bypass the card, which means, bypass means you take it and you place it on the bottom of the quest deck, and then you select the next one. Each of these have a different effect. For a wrong turn, it's one progress to complete, and you reveal one encounter card per player and add it to staging. Then at the end of the combat phase, you can put it on the bottom of the deck and draw a new one. Narrow paths. When revealed, each player chooses one questing character he controls. Each questing character not chosen does not count its willpower until the end of the turn. So when it's revealed, you can select a character to quest so that you don't end up questing too much and inadvertently completing the quest. Because you don't want to complete any of these except what will allow you to win, so as to avoid buffing the Nameless Sphere, as it will grow stronger for each of the quest cards that you complete. However, with this side quest this main quest stage we're gonna set aside because it can be important for one of the paths to victory. Heading up is a nothing. If heading up is in the victory display at the end of the quest, you shuffle it back into the quest deck. So this is a nothing. It doesn't hurt you if you complete it. It just exists, basically. It stalls for a turn. That's all it does. You place it on the bottom of the quest deck at the end of the combat phase. Heading down, same thing. If it's in the player's victory display at the end of any quest phase, you shuffle it back into the quest deck. Now, the important thing of heading up and heading down, they're not exactly nothings. I misspoke a little bit, because they do force you to shuffle the quest deck. And that can be important if you've put a card that you've already seen on the bottom of the quest deck. Shuffling will increase the likelihood that that card will come up again, and you would prefer it not to. You'd prefer to cycle through all of the quest cards until you get to the one you actually want. But heading up or heading down can force you to shuffle and essentially start over at a random point. Because of this mechanic, the shuffling the quest deck, this quest can be over very quickly. It can also be quite frustrating. Hasty Council. When revealed, shuffle all copies of a foe beyond from the encounter discard pile back into the encounter deck. That isn't likely to have any effect in true solo. Reveal the top two cards of the quest deck, choose one to become the active quest, and put the other on the bottom of the quest deck, then add Hasty Council to your victory display. So this can help you find the quest stage that you want more quickly, but it then buffs the Nameless Sphere by 2 threat, 2 attack, and 2 shields. So it helps you and it hurts you, the Hasty Council. Now we come to the final 2 quest cards that we're going to discuss. That would be Escape from Darkness and Blocked by Shadow. These cards are the 2 ways that you can win. We'll go over the least complicated one first, Blocked by Shadow. If this is the card that comes up, when revealed, you choose one of the following. Each player discards 1 card from the top of the encounter deck. If the card is a treachery card, the discarding player is eliminated from the game. So this is an option. You don't have to do this, but you can choose to if you want. Reveal the next quest card, putting Blocked by Shadow on the bottom of the quest deck. You can choose one or the other. If the players defeat this stage, they escape and win the game. So this is how it works. When this card comes up, you can choose A, you can move on to the next quest card. B, you can discard one card from the top of the encounter deck. If it's a treachery, you lose. If it's not a treachery, you remain on this stage and all you need is 9 progress to win. So it's a gamble. And if you're wondering what the odds are on this gamble, let's take a look at the quest deck. I'm not sure exactly how many treacheries they are, but I believe I once measured it and it was roughly 40%, maybe close to 50%. So basically 50-50 chance that you lose right there. But if you don't lose, then you have a much easier path to win than the other option. The other option is harder, takes longer, can be heartbreaking even. This is in true solo. I don't know about multiplayer, having never played this quest in multiplayer, but in true solo, this is the much easier option. This is like the way to cheese this quest, is basically you just play until you get this card. Then you try, discard a card, if it's and you're hoping for not a treachery, and if it's not a treachery, then you just go ahead and win. And if it is a treachery, you just go ahead and start over. And you keep trying until you get not a treachery, and then you win the quest. That's probably the easiest, meaning least time-consuming way to beat the quest. But it's also not very thematic to do it that way. If you're not playing a deck that can look at the top of the encounter deck and therefore know what's coming. If you are playing in a player deck that can look at the top of the encounter deck and know what's coming, then this is by far the way that you should go. Absolutely much easier than going the other way. You'll have a much easier time if you're, for example, playing Denethor and therefore could look at the encounter deck and know that it's not a treachery. Then you could just get to this card and then make 9 progress and then you win. Can be very easy. Could be over in 10 minutes, the game could. Now let's talk about the other path, which is Escape from Darkness. In order to escape from darkness, you need the card Abandoned Tools. Abandoned Tools is an objective located in the encounter deck, which means you have to wait for it to come out of the encounter deck and claim it. It will be guarded. You have to clear the guard, and then you have to exhaust a hero to claim the objective. There are a couple of cards in the encounter deck that can help you find it, because otherwise it could potentially take forever if you were dead set on finding the Abandoned Tools. There are 46 cards in the encounter deck, and if it was at the bottom, you're talking about 46 turns just to get the Abandoned Tools and then more turns to win. There are a few cards in the encounter deck that can help you find it. One of them is a location, which is Plundered Armory. No, it's not Plundered Armory. Which location is it? There's no location that helps with this. I must have been thinking of another quest. But there is a quest card that helps you with it. So if you are dead set on going the tools route, if Escape from Darkness comes up and you don't have the tools yet, you have to just place it on the bottom of the quest deck and continue on until you get to Narrow Paths. Narrow Paths says, after placing the first progress token on Narrow Paths, search the encounter deck and discard pile 4 abandoned tools and add it to the staging area. Now, placing 1 progress but not 3 is very tricky. If you place 3, you clear the Narrow Paths, which still finds you the abandoned tools, but you move it to the victory display and it buffs the Nameless Fear. But once you have the abandoned tools in your possession, then you can proceed to Escape from Darkness, and the abandoned tools will gain refresh action, exhaust attached hero to put a progress token on Escape from Darkness. So you attach this to a hero, you exhaust that hero, and then you place 1 progress on Escape from Darkness. You wait until the next turn, you ready up the hero, you place a progress again. You need to do that 4 times, and once you've done it 4 times, you have dug your way out and escaped from Moria. As you might imagine, this is a much harder path to victory because it can take a very long time to get the abandoned tools out of the deck. This could be, narrow paths could be on the bottom of the quest deck, which means 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 turns to dig the tools out. Then another, however many turns it takes to find Escape from Darkness. Then another 4 turns after that to dig your way out. And there are cards in the encounter deck which can force you to shuffle the current quest into the deck. New Devilry. When revealed, if the players are not on stage 1, shuffle the current quest card into the quest deck, then reveal a new quest card. So I've had that happen when I was at 3 progress on Escape from Darkness, which means you have to shuffle it into the quest deck and go find it all over again and make the progress all over again, and that's really, really annoying. So that is a much, much harder and much longer path to victory than Blocked by Shadow, but it's more thematic in that it's guaranteed. Whereas you can just straight up lose to Blocked by Shadow if you're not playing some kind of scrying effect on the encounter deck where you can look at the top card of the encounter deck and see if it's a treachery or not. So you can easily get into a 45-minute to an hour game if you're trying to do the tools route. If you get lucky and don't draw a treachery card, it can be over in 10 minutes if you take the Blocked by Shadow route. So you, the player, must decide which path appeals to you. I find it a little less satisfying to do the Blocked by Shadow path, but much, much easier. Whereas the Escape from Darkness is satisfying, but it can also be very, very frustrating. And you can wonder yourself, why am I doing this? Is this worth it? Yeah, it's up to each of you to decide which path you want to take. In any case, there's not too many tricks to deck building. There's a lot of luck, and it's important to quest very precisely. Keeping in mind that the quest cards that you don't want to pass range in progress from 1 to 7. So if you're sending everybody to the quest so that you're sending like 20 willpower or something, I would not recommend that, because it's likely you're going to be completing quest cards that you don't want to complete because they will go to the victory display and they will buff the Nameless Fear. So quest lightly so that you don't make too much progress. I would quest so that you make 2 to 3 progress on the quest card at most, which means when you're sending characters to the quest, you want to account for the Nameless Fear. You want to account for probably 3 threat from the unknown encounter card that you'll get every turn, and then 2 to 3 beyond that. So if I was facing just the Nameless Fear in staging right now, and I had 2 victory points in the victory display, I would send 7 or 8 willpower to the quest at this point, in order to not accidentally complete a quest card that I'm not prepared, or that I don't want to complete, because it will make it harder in the future as the Nameless Fear will grow stronger. Which makes sense thematically, right? The longer you spend in Moria, the closer the Nameless Fear gets to you. The more wrong paths you take, the more danger you're in. I like it from a thematic point of view. It's very, very well designed thematically. The Escape from Darkness side is not super good design in true solo in terms of fun, because it can be very, very frustrating if you don't find the tools or if the quest card gets shuffled into the deck. There are things you can do to mitigate the amount of time that it takes. So when Boromir was first released, he could ready himself an unlimited amount of times when he had the ability to ready himself for 1 threat. You could put the abandoned tools on him and then just exhaust him, ready him for 1 threat, exhaust him, ready him for 1 threat, exhaust him, ready him for 1 threat, all in 1 turn, complete the quest on the spot, and win. That was much, much easier when you could do that. Boromir has since been errated to say that you can only do that once per phase, which increases the difficulty because this is specifically a refresh action. It can only be done during the refresh phase, which means with Boromir you can make a maximum of 2 progress on the quest per round, or with an Unexpected Courage and Boromir you could make 3 or even 4 if you had 2 Unexpected Courages. But you can no longer just use Boromir to complete the quest all in one round for the cost of 4 threat. It was much easier when you could do that, but you can't anymore. But you can reduce the time you need to complete by using action advantage, such as Unexpected Courage or Boromir. And I forget what other options are available at this point in the game, but there probably are others. So if you're determined to go that route, I would certainly advise using action advantage to reduce the time needed to complete, and therefore reducing the likelihood that new devilry will come up when you're trying to complete it and ruin your beautiful plans and escape attempt. So, hopefully that helps a little bit. Quest precisely. Plan on trying to place 2 progress before you find out what the card is up to. And the reason that I say 2 progress and not like 0 is because you do want to quest for enough to be able to deal with any surges that might come up. For example, Fouled Well could surge if you didn't want to discard a card. You could also have a situation where you get a card like Dark and Dreadful, which could kill some of your questing characters depending on what their HP is. You could get a situation where you have to discard a exhausted character, discard 1 questing character, which could suddenly remove willpower from the quest. So it does depend on what point in the game you're at. You may want to quest so lightly that you don't make any progress on the quest. However, if you do that, you're likely to take on threat from time to time. So it depends on where you're at, how much threat you think you can avoid, or how much threat you think you can take on, because you may be wandering around this quest for a while. And if you take on too much early. So for safety, I usually like to quest 2 more than I think I'll need. But your mileage may vary. You may feel, no, I want to quest even lighter than that, and I'll just eat the threat if it happens. Or eat the threat if it happens, and that's not too big a deal to me. But the point is not to try to mitigate the chances of accidentally completing one of these quests, adding it to the victory display, and buffing the Nameless Fear when you don't need to. So, hopefully that was helpful or at least entertaining. And thanks for watching.